Hey, welcome to Mineral Talks Live, the weekly live webinar that brings you in-depth and in-person interviews with the mineral people from around the world. Mineral Talks Live is brought to you by a joint effort among the Mineralogical and Geological Museum at Harvard University, the Society of Mineral Museum Professionals, and Blue Cap Productions. Tune in every Wednesday and stay connected to your mineral world. Now, broadcasting live from beautiful Honolulu, Hawaii, the land of aloha, ukuleles, and shakas, this is Mineral Talks Live. Hello and welcome to episode 48 of Mineral Talks Live. Today is Wednesday, May 19th, 2021, and we have quite an incredible show for you today. For those of you tuning in for the first time, Mineral Talks Live is the weekly mineral talk show broadcasting to you live every Wednesday. I'm Brian Swoboda, the president of Blue Cap Productions, and together with my partners who are unequaled in the world, Dr. Raquel Alonso Perez from the Mineralogical and Geological Museum at Harvard University, and Dr. Eloise Gaillou from the Society of Mineral Museum Professionals, also known as the SMMP, we want to welcome you to the show. If you happen to miss any of our past episodes, feel free to visit Blue Cap Productions channel on YouTube, and you can catch up on all of our shows right there. Now, our goal in producing this program is to focus on bringing together all the different facets of our mineral world, from curators and curatrix to collectors, dealers, miners, researchers, artists, and the media that serves us all. We hope that in doing so, we bring everyone a little closer together and allow you to gain a better perspective of what others do in this world. We invite you to participate and interact with the show throughout the live broadcast. And there are two ways in which you can do this. Both are located at the bottom of your screen in the form of buttons you'll see in your Zoom interface. The chat feature allows you to type messages to everyone watching and participating in the show. So when you first sign on, go ahead and fire off a chat message telling everyone where you're from. If you have any thoughts or comments or even a great joke, this is where you can post these. Now, during the interview, my guest and I may not see all of your chat messages, but both Raquel and Eloise will be very active in those chats, so look for their comments and links. When appropriate, either Raquel or Eloise may address us directly with some of your questions, so if you have a question on what we're discussing, this is the place to ask it. Now, the second way to interact is with the Q&A function. This allows you to submit general questions that we'll try to answer at the very, very end of the interview. Finally, at about 40 minutes into the program, you may see a little window pop up on your screen asking a bunch of questions for our weekly poll. This is one of our favorite parts of the show, as it allows us to learn little, small, random, and oftentimes interesting facts about our guests. On today's episode, we're headed over to Europe again, and we're going to focus our attention on the country of Portugal, home of incredibly wonderful people, cuisine that will have you begging for more, and the biggest wave on the planet ever surfed. And today's guest, an inspiration to us all, Rui Galopim. Hello, Rui. How are you tonight?
Hi, Brian. Hello, everyone. It's so cool to be here again in front of a camera. But this time, I'm not organizing anything, which feels quite a strange. I don't control the buttons. I just relax and try to answer as wisely as I can to your very difficult questions.
Oh, there's nothing wise about us. You just tell us your life story. Really glad to have you, and I think this is going to be fun for you because you just got to relax, kick back, and not have to worry about anything.
And it's great to be here, really great to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Well, our pleasure. Thank you for accepting it. Now, Rui, as you know, oftentimes we like to turn back the clock at the very start of the interview to learn about the origins. I want to know about your love of rocks, gemstones. What triggered this interest in you? How did you get started with this?
That's pretty much similar to your story. I mean, your dad was very, very important in your career. But before I ever decided to become a gemologist, I had no idea. I had no clue what kind of career I would follow. I loved animals. I love architecture, go figure. But I loved medicine. I loved nature. And then when I finished high school, my grades were quite nice. And I couldn't go into medicine because it's too much work, too much studying. But I could basically go into any degree. But then I was, what do I do? And then my dad, which is here on this photograph over there, And he was and still is a geologist. And my brother over there, today a very prominent journalist, he was studying in geology in the geology faculty in Lisbon. And my father, he was a professor there. My brother, he was a student. I say, what the heck? Maybe I had too much to drink on that evening. I say, okay, what the heck? I'm going to geology. And here I am, still in high school, still with a very nice hair. And I'm 17 on this picture, going on to doing field geology with my father and my brother. And all of a sudden, I was in the Lisbon University studying geology. And I had, because I loved animals, and I collected fossils. I wanted to be a paleontologist. Interesting. And then my paleontology professor, quite a very nice man, but not a very inspiring professor. He used to read the syllabus, blah 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 blah.
Oh God!
Today, the paleontology professors today, they are brilliant. Maybe I would have been a paleontologist if it wasn't for this professor. But then
Sure.
I had a crystallography professor.
Okay.
That he was like one of those professors that you learn much more in the breaks than within class, because he was
Absolutely.
so full of charisma. But on class, he was not very good communicator. But he mentioned something about trigons on a diamond, which is an evidence of the trigonal symmetry that you can have on that mineral. And he said that with trigons, if the girdle of a cut stone would have trigons, it meant that dissolution mark was appropriate for a diamond and not for an imitation like a cubic zirconia. And that fascinated me quite a bit. And in the end of class, I went to him and said, and his name was Ricardo Quadrado, and translating is square Richard. That's what his name means. And I was like, oh, professor, what an interesting subject. And he said, this is called gemology. It's the field of knowledge that studies gemstones and has very much to do with crystallography, mineralogy, geology. And in the next class, he brought me some photocopies. I don't know if you guys remember what photocopies were, but photocopies of an article published on the Revista del Instituto Gemológico Español, the Gemological Institute of Spain. And it was an article in Spanish about synthetic emeralds. And he said, okay, this is an article about gemology. And I was like, wow, it was in Spanish. I mean, we Portuguese, we speak Portuñol, which is a mixture, but I could read it. And I was absolutely fascinated. But more than that, he remembered and he cared enough to make those photocopies of that article. And he gave it to me. Then my father, he was a geologist, and he could understand this subject. And I said, oh, Dad, professor of crystallography today, he spoke about gemology, and that I'm so fascinated about it. And this was 1987, just 3 years after you left Lisbon. And
1987. Wow. Okay.
And then my father, he was director of the Natural History Museum in Lisbon at the time. And there was this convention called Mineralogy and Museums. I think the next one is in Bulgaria. And that year was in London. And my father went to London to that Mineralogy and Museum convention. And the GEMA, Gemological Association of Great Britain, that your good friend Alan Hart today is the CEO, had a booth there. And my dad, he made me a regular member of the association, entitling me of receiving the Journal of Gemology. Back then it was not a peer review magazine, today it is. And he bought me a book called Beginner's Guide to Gemology by Peter Reed. And I totally devoured that book, and I was totally into gemology. And I remember since then, my energy and my passion is the same as it is today. So all began with a crystallographer. Actually, all began with a not very good, efficient paleontology teacher that took me away from paleontology, and a very charismatic and very generous crystallography professor that then inspired me. And my father, he tried to give me some comfort and betting on this career. But when I was younger, I wanted to be a rock star. So anyway,
we all wanted to be rock stars when we were younger. But I would submit that you are a rock star, just in a way that you couldn't predict when you were 17.
I miss the hair, but yes, to do the handbag.
Wait, but I think I've got a picture here of you with some hair that you've added there.
Oh my God. That picture, actually, it's myself like many kilos ago, and Jean-Pierre Chalin from SSEF, and Lawrence Marais. He was then the director of the South African Jewelry Association, and my good friend, the journalist Gillian, and we were visiting the Rand refinery, and we had to take all our clothes off and all our metals off, so we could dress those pajamas and go into the highly safety thing. So yes, and I took the opportunity to put some socks so I could feel myself as a more hairy rock star.
I love it. Well, Rui, you're a crystallography teacher. As you say, it was kind of the gaps in between the classes where you really kind of latched onto that passion. I think that crystallography teacher served as a model for you because I see you very much the same way. You are so incredibly knowledgeable over stuff, and obviously I've watched some of your presentations, and you know so much, but the way in which you present it, and even the way in which you just told this past story, is so filled with excitement and passion that you're one of those rare people that makes learning fun. And hats off to you, man. That's incredible.
Oh, thank you very much. But I have to give credit to my dad with that. And those that have been students of my dad, they know that my father, he can turn difficult things into simple things and turn simple things into important things. So he has this kind of a way of reaching out to people, creating an empathy between whoever is teaching and whoever wants to be inspired to learn. And I was a student of my father in 3 courses: general geology, geomorphology, and sedimentology. So he was my professor 3 times, and I've watched him lecturing in many parts of Portugal, and still today he's 89. And when he lectures to a school or to a group of high school teachers or even to geology colleagues, he's 89, but he sounds 40, and his body language it goes like 50 years away. It's so inspiring, his energy. He even takes a heart pill so he doesn't get very excited, so he can get away with the class. So I think he's my inspiration.
Yeah, and I think the ability to take some difficult concept and make it easy to understand is true genius there. And for those viewers at home, we're looking at some photographs of Rui's father here. And Rui, tell us quickly about this. It looks like your name, but I know it's really named after your father.
I tried to tell the guys, just take out the professor, because I don't have that academic title. So just put the Galopim de Carvalho, which I could say it is me. But yes, this is the so-called Quartz Museum. It's in Viseu. It was a quartz mine for industrial purposes that had a big scar on the landscape, and the municipality, the local government there, they decided to rehabilitate the landscape and my father gave the idea, let's do a museum honoring a material that gave jobs and gave a lot of wealth to this community, which is quartz. And then they decided to do a quartz museum. And I remember many of you on the audience, you might remember Louis Leite. He was a mineral dealer. The mineral latite is named after him. And he passed away already, unfortunately. But he started with my father, collecting quartz samples from all over the world to build this museum. And the idea of the museum was not to have extraordinary, very eye-catching specimens, was to have minerals that could teach earth sciences and the sustainable source and values of nature to the local communities. And it started in the beginning of the millennia, and it was inaugurated, I think, 12 or 13 years ago, and still is there. Is a mineral museum with only one species, which is in this case quartz. Of course, some other silica parent materials are there, like opals, for example, but mainly it's quartz. Quartz Museum with many habits, many shapes, many paragenesis. So it's very interesting, and it's not on a main city. It's really in the middle of the country, but it helps the local communities to have those high school kids and basic school kids. They can go to a natural history museum and at least learn something about earth formation, about volcanic activity, about magmatism, blah, 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 those kind of concepts. And it's pretty much reflects of what my father is, which is an educator. And he inspired the local governments to build that into, so he could continue educating. And the picture you saw before, my father is on a very important chair, like a throne. He was getting a honoris causa doctorate because of his services to science. So now he has 2 PhDs, which is amazing.
Well, it's wonderful. I think he's on the show today. He's watching live,
I hope so, right? Yeah. Or maybe he's on the computer swearing because he cannot get in. But anyway, he will see it later on YouTube.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I mean, here's a picture of him. I think 89 years old, still going strong, very comfortable with technology. And Rui, I actually have to say, like father, like son, you honor him well.
Wow. Amazing. That one is my father with some high school kids, and the other one with me is in Dubai in the Pearl Symposium. Wow, it's the same position.
Pose. See, I find these patterns. And Rui, real quickly, I want you to talk about your good friend Alan Jobbins here.
Well, I was really lucky to have so much good people around me in my career. My father is one of them. Professor Quadrado, the crystallography teacher, was the other one. And Alan Jobbins. Alan Jobbins, he used to work for the Geology Museum in London, now the Natural History Museum. And he was a tutor at the Gemological Association of Great Britain, where I was a student. And he was a geologist. He loved mineralogy and gemology. And he was one of those guys that he was like a walking encyclopedia in geology and earth sciences. And he was very human. And he understood that when I was a student, I didn't have much money and much resources. So I didn't have much money to buy books. And he used to invite me to go to his place in Caterham, just outside of London, to be with him, learning from his books, from the samples, from the amazing Nikon photographic microscope that he had. And he was like my gemological hero. And I remember I had already my degree. I was trying in Portugal to get a job as a gemologist, and I couldn't make money. And in this GMA conference, maybe, I don't know, 1994, I can't remember, I was with him saying that, Alan, I think I'm going to quit this career. I'm just going to find a job, and because I need to make money. And he said, Rui, you don't quit. People like you don't quit. You just do like this.
Roll up the sleeves.
And you must suffer a little bit more, but don't quit, because you have the passion and the energy, and you have the whole country in front of you. You have all the museums, you have all the churches, you have all the companies, and even if the market is very small, you will grow with it, and you can inspire people to love what you love, and eventually you can get some contracts and something to do. And you won't be rich, but you will starve comfortably. And those words, they are still in my head. And he was talking with me with his hand on my arm, like a grandfather, you know. And I was like, wow. And I followed his advice, and I didn't quit.
It made all of us richer.
Thank you very much.
No,
but
honestly, because
I haven't quit.
Yeah, no. If you had quit, who knows what would have happened to you, but so many people have benefited from what you do. I mean, one example, I've talked about this quite a bit, back about a year ago, Raquel and Eloise approached me and they wanted to start this this live webinar kind of thing, and I totally didn't want to do it because I said, hey, the technology's not there, it's not important enough, the quality isn't going to be good enough, I don't believe in this. And they said, Brian, you have to take a look. I want you to go check out one of Rui's programs. And I went and I signed on. It was the Pearl one that you did. And the next day I called them. I said, okay, let's go ahead and do this. And so this is a program that you started with a good friend, Edward Johnson here. And
oh, wow.
You've done all of these different programs. I know Eloise was on your program one time, and I don't remember which episode it was. I want to say
6.
It was diamonds or was it emeralds?
Diamonds, yeah.
Diamonds. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And just you and Edward were such an inspiration. I can't honestly say that Mineral Talks Live would have happened without you. And so, that goes back to even to Alan Jobbins. And you guys were like the original dynamic duo. And I don't know who is which, but you guys will always be my Batman and Robin.
No, of course, I am Batman. And,
of course,
Edward is Robin, of course. But
tell us how you guys came up with the idea to start this program.
It came naturally. I have a personal relationship with Edward for many, many years. And in the beginning of the pandemic, I remember the lockdown in Portugal and in Spain. And I had this Spanish group with Adolfo de Basilio. I know he's in the show today.
Right now too.
Yeah, and many other Spanish friends. We just made like a normal Zoom meeting, not a webinar. And okay, each and every one of us, we know some subject. Let's share. Mm-hmm. Let's be an evening together, sharing things that we love. So I did one on emeralds for the Spanish group, and then I was telling Henry Ho from the Asian Institute of Gemological Sciences that we could do something also for the Thai friends and for the gemologists at the institute that they could not go to work, and so I did another one for my Thai friends. And then I was chatting with Edward and sharing this. And if you know Edward, he's a very human man. He has a kind of humanity that you only witness in people of the highest caliber. And he felt that this was important for the next person. It was humanly important to entertain our friends, our community, our industry. And he, from day one, he was not active from day one in the webinars, but he was critical in building up the conditions to do so. And another person was also critical at the beginning because I didn't have money to pay for the webinar room. It was quite expensive. And my good friend Enzo Liverino from Naples, he helped me out in the beginning. Of course, then this took a bigger scale, and CIBJO, the World Jewelry Confederation, came into play. And on those areas, Edward was already speaking with them on doing something also. And that's when, I don't know when he came in as a co-host. I think it was on the 5th webinar. And he was absolutely brilliant. And he was able to, and a good thing, he is also a host in CIBJO webinars, very poshy, very formal ones. But in ours, he was Edward. He was the Edward, humorous Edward. And it was amazing. And it was a privilege working with him because he's very organized, organized. I'm just a mess. I just improvise, and he doesn't. He prepares, he makes sure everything is on time and on schedule, and he filters everything that needs to be filtered, really professional, which I am not. And so, and because we respect each other intellectually very much, it worked really well. And we almost improvised everything in our dialogue. What was totally improvised. And I was so lucky to have been able to spend so much time with him preparing and doing the webinars and doing the shows. And now he continues to do webinars and hosting shows because he's really good at it, really good.
Wonderful. It sounds similar to the relationship that I have with Eloise and Raquel. I always joke that I'm just the monkey in front of the camera and they're doing all the hard work, and I honestly believe that. So you are an inspiration, but also your model is one that it's the same model that we have.
And you are much more lucky than I am because they are much better looking than Edward.
By far. Oh my God, by far. Sorry, Edward, but hey, I think even you admit it. Hey, Rui, bring us up to date with what you're doing right now. I know you're doing a lot of research and you're working with the Portuguese Crown Jewels, and you have such a varied background. And I've got a lot of photos of pieces that I want to share, and I'm sure that people are eager to see this. So take it from there, move it forward. Tell us about what you're doing now.
So, my relationship with the Palácio Nacional da Ajuda, with the Royal Palace, began in 1991 when I was still a student, and I was invited to go there just to check a few emeralds. And all of a sudden, I was checking the Van Corsage, which is a stomacher full of 31 absolutely stunning Colombian emeralds. Like, you cannot believe the quality of it. And that was the first time I saw them. A big exhibition took place in 1991. And I still remember, I still have the ticket of that exhibition and the catalog. Wow. And then I think it was in 2001, I started to study very briefly the collection. And I remember going to an IMA conference in Scotland and going to the Scottish branch of the Gemological Association, lecturing about the crown jewels in 2001 or 2002. And then, but the jewels, they were kept in a vault, and they were not on public display unless when they were traveling. And then, fortunately, the local government and some sponsors, they decided, okay, we will have a museum, a cutting-edge technology, very highly secure museum to hold the crown jewels and to tell the story of the Portuguese royalty, as well as some story, by the way, story of diamond mining and gold mining, because you can tell that story as well. And of course, decorative art story. And all the vaults, all the boxes were open, and me and myself and the team, we were allowed. My part was just to study each and every stone set on all the jewelry artifacts that are going to the exhibition. And I don't know, I think I've reached already almost 20,000 stones individually. So it's quite it's the majority are diamonds, of course. And each and every one is identified, measured, not photographed. You don't photograph 1 millimeter rose cut diamonds, but I mean, the level of detail is that kind of level of detail. And it was fortunate. And I had the help of two volunteers that I call them my slaves. And Joaquim Afonso, there we go, Joaquim Afonso and Olga Pinto de Magalhães. Olga, she's a jeweler, she's a trained jeweler, and she worked with me 10 years ago in the Royal Palace as well. Joaquim Afonso, if you ever are invited for a state dinner at the Royal Palace, he will be there as a formal helper of the protocol of the state dinner. So he will see him all those very poshy garments, blah, blah, blah. But they are voluntaries from the Royal Palace, and they gave me a huge help because I was able to have my hand lens and my microscope in my eyes, and I was shouting things and they were taking notes. And it was a lot of fun working with them. They were quite a remarkable team, and I give them recognition for it.
Wonderful. Now, is that piece that she's holding there, is that the Golden Fleece piece?
Yes, it is. It is dismounted and still before it was cleaned. Now, this is after being cleaned. As you see, now I'm wearing gloves. And this is an absolutely fantastic piece. I can't remember by heart how many diamonds there are, but close to 2,000 diamonds. And rubies, of course, with the characteristics compatible with Burmese origin, and a huge sapphire, almost 40 carats of a sapphire. Curiously, this sapphire originally wasn't a sapphire. This one was bought in the 1940s in Paris. I think it was 1951 by José Rosa Jr. He was a jeweler, and he was recovering the crown jewels back then in the middle of the 20th century, but it was a doublet on that area. So he bought a sapphire in Paris, and the sapphire is absolutely stunning. Those that understand cutting styles, we look at this sapphire and it doesn't look as an 18th century, a late 18th century sapphire, as it is the age of this jewelry piece. So, but it has internal characteristics compatible with Sri Lankan origins. And the way, and I don't say it is Sri Lankan because I have to always, because no chemical analysis was made. So it was basically Gobelin style inclusion study, or John Coyovola style inclusion and structural study. So that was the amount of information that we were able during COVID with and I cannot tell you where this was made, but the conditions were not the best.
Understood.
But still, basically it's a Sri Lankan one, quite nice one. But the cut is a 20th century cut, not an 18th century cut. But all the other stones, they are 18th century cut, and the diamonds over there are absolutely stunning. You have two very light pink diamonds. You have a yellow diamond with a pinkish orange fluorescence. So you have such a nice things. I would love that Eloise could come here with many gadgets and study the spectra of all those diamonds, because she did a wonderful work at the Smithsonian, studying the diamond types and the crystal defects of many of those diamonds. And I remember she still has a ultraviolet photograph of, I think it's she can remember, it's Empress Eugenie necklace. I can't remember if it is that one, and with the diamond types.
Well, I think she's packing her bags right now.
Or feeding the cat.
It was the Hope Diamond.
It was a Hope Diamond. Wow.
But you don't have a picture of a necklace with various diamonds with the different fluorescence.
Oh yeah, that's the Marie-Louise. That's the Marie-Louise
Exactly.
Diamond necklace. Yes.
Yeah. So I remember the work that you do that you don't remember you've done.
Well, Rui, I'm going to play a video that we have of the Golden Fleece piece, just so that the viewers know it moves kind of quickly, but I think what it really shows is the sparkle of the diamonds here. So let's go ahead and play that. Look at that.
And you know that the sparkle in diamonds has all to do with the lighting, with what kind of illumination you choose. So those that sell diamonds, they know exactly how to illuminate a diamond to create this scintillation, brilliance, and sparkle and whitish effect. So
that is incredible.
Of course, when you study diamonds, you don't use this kind of lighting. You use this, which is a fluorescent bulb, which is a daylight equivalent bulb with a correlated temperature of 5,500 Kelvin, and that's it. You don't use the same light for buying that you use for selling. Basically, that's the spirit behind it. When you study, you look for not the defects, but you look for the characteristics. When you sell, you must make people dream about the beauty and the sparkle, etc.
What it would look like on them. Yeah. Rui, I'm going to play this video of the Aquamarine, and maybe you can tell us about this piece.
Oh yeah. For those that like diamonds, you might have heard about the Braganza diamond. And I think it was on the conference that I met Luis Gayu in San Diego, 2007, 8, I can't remember. I had a poster. She had a present. She was very important, so she had an oral presentation. I was only allowed to have a poster presentation, but she was speaking. She was lecturing on opals, her PhD subject, I think. Maybe she doesn't remember, but I do. And this poster had to do with this very stone, with this aquamarine that resides in the Royal Palace for centuries. And when I started studying the royal collections many years ago, before the decision of making this museum, I was trying to find where is the Braganza diamond. And the people that studied the crown jewels before me, that is José Rosa Jr. from Oporto. Actually, that guy, he was father of the first Portuguese gemologist that took the FGA degree in 1946. But this gentleman, he was also trying to find the Braganza diamond. And he made this hypothesis that maybe it is an aquamarine that resides in the royal palace. But there was no assurance. But then when we look into the literature, John Mauer, he publishes that there was a crystal that weighed about a pound, a rounded one, and about 2 inches, about a little bit of 2 inches in diameter, which is 5 centimeters, which is the same as this one, a little bit bigger. And he made an incision on the crystal to know what it is. I mean, it is quite strange because when you turn the crystal, you can see the pseudo-hexagonal thing. It's a pebble, but you can tell it's hexagonal. But he on 2 publications, he say, okay, this is a crystal. On the other publication, he say, I never saw such a thing. Because in 1940, there was this rumor on the European press that the King of Portugal was he was a owner of a huge diamond weighing 1,680 carats. Of course, the carats on those days are not the same as the carats as today. And so I have no idea if the news was, if they weighted the stone in carats, which is not probable, or they weighted the stone in some other units and not kilograms for sure. And then they translated it in whatever carats they were available as a standard. But when you weigh this aquamarine and you look at the literature, the figures, as the paper that I presented when I met Eloise more than 14 years ago, they are very similar. And so with some more documentation, we are now pretty close to be very sure that this one might have been whatever the press was actually announcing as the Bragança diamond, or the diamond that was owned by the Prince Regent of Portugal that was worth a fortune. Of course, it's a worthless aquamarine. Not worthless, but it's not like but it's not. I mean, it's not like a fantastic mineral specimen, but it is not a diamond. But it's interesting because it has this historical value that if you ever read about the Bragança diamond, then you can visit it. You will be able to visit it on the new museum.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I've got a gold here that is also from the Royal Collection. Tell us about this.
Yeah. Interestingly, in 1768, the Portuguese king decided to have a natural history museum. And it was the very first in Portugal. And he appointed one scientist called Domenico Vandelli, which he was from Padua, to build up this collection. And Vandelli, he was a pupil of Linneo, of the carbon Linneo, of the biologist. And he came to Portugal to make a botanic gardens and to make a mineral collection, or a collection of things that were collected in the so-called philosophical trips, that are trips that were made in the colonies to collect rocks, minerals, plants, seeds, etc. And there was this museum in the very place where the future museum will be, around that area, with many gold specimens, diamonds, minerals, rocks. And I'm not sure if those 15 nuggets that are still in the collection, plus a big one, approximately 20 kilo one, which is not a nugget, it's more like an agglomerate, with has quartz and some ironstone in there, and they are from various places in Brazil. They are not from the same place. I don't know if those nuggets are original from that very museum, or they were collected eventually on the later date. Because of the French invasion, some of the specimens were sent back to Brazil with the royal family when we went to Brazil, not escaping from the French, but we just moved the capital from Portugal to Brazil. And so we were named the United Kingdom of Portugal, Brazil, and the Algarves. And the king, instead of having the royal palace in Lisbon, had his royal palace in Rio de Janeiro. And then pretty much many of the collections were actually moved into Brazil. And of course, when he returned, many of those items returned as well. So, but the interesting thing is, there was this will of having some mineral specimens that served many purposes, from educational to political to even economical, that were at the disposal of the monarchs primarily, and this was the original idea, for the education of the princes. So the mineral collections and all that science museum or natural history museum in 1768 was built to educate the princes that would become future kings, and they needed to be educated on natural history so they could understand the colonies, they could understand the economics behind it.
Fascinating. That is fascinating. I've got another incredible piece of jewelry here. Tell us about this one.
Oh, this is really nice from the same period, late 18th century. This was used as an epaulette that Eloise understands because it's French. It's a shoulder jewel. It could also be worn as a hat pin. And it's interesting because it has a ruby, diamonds, of course, and it has approximately 30 carat spinel from what we believe it's a Tajikistan or Afghanistani spinel from the very place where the so-called Ballas rubies came from in the past. And it's an amazing stone because it is set in closed setting, has a foil back, and the foil back has color, which was not uncommon on those days to foil back colored gemstones with color of the color of that stone. In the case of rubies and spinels, you could have pink or red foils. In the case of diamonds, you had like colorless foils, or which is interesting enough, black foils as well. And eventually we will. I think there is a picture that represents that really, really well. But interesting is this is a authentic 18th century jewelry piece where when we look at this jewelry piece, like in the Golden Fleece, we don't see metal. We basically only see gemstones because this is what Portugal actually changed as a design or aesthetical narrative in the construction of jewelry. Before diamonds of Brazil were discovered officially in 1729, but they were available a few decades before. But before the huge quantities of diamonds that came from Brazil in the mid of the 18th century, jewels were made by very, very skilled jewelers that were working the gold and basically gold, some silver with a chisel, and they were like sculptures. And the stones, they were not very abundant. So you have one stone here, one stone there. With the amount of diamonds that started to come from Brazil, and because of diamonds, the other colored gemstones that were found on the floor, like colorless topaz, chrysoberyl, garnet, aquamarine topaz, imperial topaz, etc., the amount of stones was so much that jewelers, they could make actually jewelry pieces with stones all over. And so the gemstone setter became a very important trade in the 18th century. And the sculptural jeweler, I mean, he was not needed because now we don't want art. We just want bling bling.
Sure.
And it's interesting to see jewels before and jewels after and explain that. And this museum actually is a testimony of what was in existence after the discovery of the diamonds in Brazil, where you don't see metal in those jewelry artifacts. You basically only see diamonds and some colored gemstones, of course.
That is fascinating. I've got a video of the same piece that is under ultraviolet light. So let me go ahead and play that right now, and you can talk about what we're seeing here.
Oh, that's a gemologist geeky thing. It's a long wave.
It's a mineralogist geeky thing too.
Yeah, it's just to see the phosphorescence, which is the luminescent reaction when you shut down the lamp, the long wave ultraviolet lamp. You still emit yellow fluorescence, and that's it. That's more for education and for our pleasure than anything else. Curiously, when you see the ruby and the spinel, you see the red, very strong fluorescence as well, due to chromium that is the coloring agent on those two gemstones. Sure.
Now, Rui, tell me about this piece. This is absolutely fascinating.
That is another one, which is some say it's the more important jewel in the collection. Actually, the president of Portugal wears, of course, not this one, but a similar one with the same three symbols. Here on this piece, you see four symbols. You see a Christ cross, you see a Santiago cross, and an Avis or Avish cross. And of course, in the top, you see a heart, which is the Sacred Heart of Jesus. But taking out the religious meaning of the piece, you have three military orders that today the president is still the grand, how do you say this in English? Grand maître of those orders. So he's the boss of the three orders, of the three military orders, and he can still wear something similar to this representation. Of course, the kings, they used to wear this in gold, diamonds, and gemstones. And so this is the important historical importance of this jewelry. And again, you see metal, no metal.
No metal. Yeah, exactly.
No metal.
I mean, I didn't have that perspective before until you explained it on the last one. And the second I was kind of scanning through the photos, I said, this is the same kind of thing where we don't see any of the metal.
No.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Gosh, I don't know which one to go to next. Let's talk about this one.
This is just a geeky thing. It's quartz with some, because you can see some of those religious crosses are made of glass. And glass, when you see inclusions in glass, they are roundish or ovalish or navette section bubbles, gas bubbles. In quartz, you might have some crystals. Of course, you can have fluid inclusions, and sometimes they have some shapes. And if you are knowledgeable enough and you can get close to the artifact, you can actually see those whitish, sugary-like inclusions that are actually fluid inclusions with gas and liquid. And that's it. That's just for geeks to see that is actually rock crystal, which is colorless quartz.
I love how you
come from. I'm sorry, Rui. Do we know where the quartz come from? No idea. Alpine, maybe.
Buo is the Italian way of saying I don't know.
Okay, that was Vera's question. Blame Vera.
I have no idea. It can come from so many places, and it can come from one place and be manufactured on another place. Maybe European.
Now, Rui, we've got this sword here and very intricate guard. Tell us about this.
And this is more for people that like jewelry and crafts. And people that like heraldry. I don't know how to say this in English. But the coat of arms of Portugal is there. And that coat of arms is at least, that kind of design without the crown, is at least 700 years old. This is how old we are. As a nation, we are older, but that coat of arms with those castles and things is almost 700 years. So that's really amazing. We are not as old as the Chinese, but we are quite old. And our frontiers as a country go back many, many, many centuries. Of course, the Spanish took a few things from us, but that's okay.
But we won't go into that.
No, but our rectangle, which is the country, is quite an old country, and the coat of arms, which represent our nation, is really, really very old.
Absolutely. I know we're kind of getting towards the end of our allotted time, and I've got no problem going over, obviously. So what is this?
Oh, this is for those that love carvings. This is a late 17th century reliquary that some Christians believe that it has a little bit of the cross of Christ. So it's like a relic. And it has Colombian emeralds of the highest quality, rose-cut diamonds, and an echeomo, this is quite significant. It's quite a large carving in Hessonite garnet from Sri Lanka, with those royal effects and those inclusions very typical of that locality. And it's quite a very good quality carving. And it's in Évora, which is the homeland of all my family. Évora in the center of Portugal. It's a beautiful city, very good food. And it's away from the sea, but the food is quite good. And one of the specialities there is the shark soup we call cação. It's a very small sharky fish, and it has a lot of coriander and garlic and olive oil. And I'm so hungry.
Stop it, Rui. You're getting me hungry. I'm about to start cutting to these photos of food.
Yes. Oh yes, those are all Portuguese things. Pastel de bacalhau, which is the one that you've shown, it's a codfish, which is the British. They use it in the fish and chips, but we use it as the Norwegians. We salt it, and then we have like 1,000 recipes for bacalhau. And
Oh, I love
in the back
bacalhau.
is not soup, it's tomato rice, and I cook it really nicely as well.
All right. You were talking about Colombian emeralds here, and I know Raquel would kill me if we didn't talk about la lechuga.
This was one of the happiest days in my gemological life. One was, of course, going into the Smithsonian in 1997. And Jeffrey Post, he was not there because he had like an accident or something. So he had like his leg was not okay. So Russell Feather, he opened of course, I was with my dad. Otherwise, Russell wouldn't open the safe for us. And I was in the safe. He said, just have fun. And I was messing. It was amazing. And this one was another very happy day of my life. This was in Lisbon, in the Museu Nacional de Arte Antiga. This picture was took by my good friend Luisa Penalva. She's the curator of the museum. And the lechuga really rarely came out of Colombia.
Right.
And lechuga was going to Portugal, to Madrid, and to the Louvre in Paris. That's it.
Great.
And I was lucky to be there in the day it arrived, and I could bring my handlers, my lights, my ultraviolets, my Chelsea color filters, my portable gemological tools that my good friend Antoinette Matlin, she loves to mention how important they are, and they are. And I could just have fun looking into all those really finest quality emeralds that you can imagine. They are really, really good quality ones. It's absolutely amazing. And the rim of the monstrance has, contrarily to what is customary in the Iberian Peninsula, where Spain, which was by the way, this monstrance is dated 1707, I think. It's about in the beginning of the 18th century, made in gold. And it was made by a Spanish goldsmith, but it was made in Colombia. Mm-hmm. And it was not very common in the Iberian Peninsula to have an aura where the Holy Sacrament was held, made in pearls. And in Colombia, curiously, this is not the only monstrance that has pearls in the aura. So it's quite a remarkable thing. And I was really lucky to have studied also many treasures from the Portuguese church. So looking to this monstrance was like, wow, was like seeing something totally different with a different gem set. In Portugal, we see a lot of Brazilian gemstones. Here, we see Colombian emeralds. It was amazing.
Well,
and
I know
possibly
that,
those pearls are from Panama or from Venezuela.
Well, yeah, I know that Raquel is, can I say it, green with envy when she sees this.
I felt really lucky. I was really lucky. Yeah.
And gosh, it's such an incredible piece. It really is. For you to have a chance to be that close to it and to examine it, I can certainly
and
see
the reason, I mean, I don't know if all the people habla español or speak Spanish, but lechuga means lettuce.
Lettuce, right?
In Portuguese, and it's called because the name, the liturgical name of this artifact is the Custodia de Sant Ignacio de Bogotá. It was a Jesuit temple, but it's called lechuga because it's green. And by the way, green is a very good color for sports, especially in Sporting Lisbon. We were the champions this year. I'm sorry, I have to say this. For 19 years, we were not champion, and we were this year. Clean. It was clean.
Well, that's going to be one of our 5 quick-fire questions, and I think we're coming to that part of the show, but I did want to share a couple photos here. You had mentioned Jeff Post, and here's a wonderful picture.
Oh, and I think I know who gave you that picture. And I think the photographer. Yeah, I wonder. And Jeff is such an amazing guy. He shares everything he knows. And he had also a relationship with my good friend Luis Leite. And I met actually Jeff in Lisbon when he came here in 1998, I think, for a mineralogy symposium. Carl Francis, he was there. He was there also. George Harlow as
George
well.
Harlow.
So Bob Gates. What's the name of that guy from Los Angeles? Help me out.
Tony Kempf?
Yeah.
Okay.
So so many. It was amazing. I met all those guys, like meeting the monsters. Alan, he didn't come. He was not important at the time.
Hey, you tell him he's not important. He's going to do this to you.
Because he's the James Bond of mineralogy, as you know.
He is. But the two of you make such a cute couple. And the thing that really breaks my heart is how Alan feels when you're not around.
I hope that he's in the audience, but maybe he will say that I was the one giving the lecture. So I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure. No, he's a good friend of us all. Yes.
Before we go into before the show at the end, the show ends. Sorry, Raquel is saying it's what's happening with Rui now, but what's going to happen with Rui in the future, especially at the museum. What's going to happen at the museum? Can you tell us more about the museum?
Absolutely.
And the exhibit?
Oh, the museum, it doesn't have any day to official opening because of the pandemic. Everything is so volatile. And we hope that it's going to open in 2021. But we have so many other museums in Lisbon. We have the Lalique collection in the Gulbenkian Museum. We have the renovated jewelry galleries at the Museu Nacional de Arte Antiga with a very strong presence of 18th and 19th century jewelry artifacts with Brazilian gemstones. We have all the museums from the church that are still open in Lisbon with a lot of gemstones as well. So Lisbon is full of things to visit until, of course, when the Royal Treasure Museum opens. It will be really special. And I hope to be there. If you come to Portugal, I hope to be there to welcome you all in there. And then we can have dinner or we can have lunch, but maybe more dinner.
That would be fantastic. And I think these are some images of the museum.
Of the renovation. Those are renovation. all the team of experts, curators, and specialists in various areas, from coins to metals to heraldics. We were visiting the facility that it will be ready. We have no idea when. Okay. But hopefully 2021.
Well, we're going to keep our fingers crossed and hope that happens. Yeah. Okay. It looks like, at least on my end, Rui's, he's back with the video, but we can hear him. Okay, so Rui, we are going to go to our quick fire questions. I've got 5 questions I'm going to ask you. All of your answers are correct. The audience has already seen these questions, and they're trying to predict how you're going to answer. So I have to ask you, are you ready? And you just have to give a quick response to every question that I ask. You ready?
Fire.
Okay.
Fire.
Question number 1, peach Melba or banana split?
Peach Melba.
Okay. Question number 2, soccer or football?
Football. Come on. Soccer is American. Football.
Question number 3. This is a really important one. Dancing or playing music?
Oh, playing music, definitely. But if there is an instrument around, it's dancing. Oh, where did you find? Oh, it's on my Facebook. Yeah. But I wanted to be a rock star.
You are a rock star. I keep telling you, my friend. All right. Question number 4, diamond or pearl?
Oh, pearl. Definitely.
Pearl. Definitely. And this is why the first time I tuned into one of your shows, you did the pearl presentation, and it was absolutely incredible. I mean, it just grabbed me. I mean, you are a fantastic educator. You really are.
Oh, thank you so much.
Final question, Vesuvio or Kilauea?
Vesuvio.
Vesuvio. Okay, well, that's the end of the show. Bye.
And let me tell you why. Because I spent my summer vacation last year and the year before in the bottom of the Vesuvio in a really nice villa next to the Naples Bay. And when I was in the swimming pool, I was facing the Vesuvio every day.
Oh, that's
and
fantastic.
the oregano and the other herbs that we are using in our pizza, in our things that we were cooking at home, they came from the Vesuvio. So Vesuvio definitely. But let me just say, when I asked diamonds or pearls, honestly, this is disgraceful, but with gemstones, I'm pretty much like those guys that have many girlfriends, or those cultures that can have many wives. And I call myself a polygamist in terms of gemstones because I love them all.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if I can take them all at the same time, but I love them all.
Well, maybe if you were 17 again with all the hair, you could.
There you go.
Okay. Eloise, are you ready with all the answers that our guests have provided for the 5 questions?
Yes,
okay.
Indeed.
Question number 1, peach Melba or banana split? Rui obviously said peach Melba. What about our audience?
I'm sorry for the questions, Rui. Peach Melba, indeed.
Bing, bing, bing. Soccer or... Yeah, go ahead, Rui.
I mean, don't take me wrong, but between a peach and a banana, I'm definitely picking a peach, because the banana, you never know.
All right. Because this is a family show, I'm going to keep quiet on that one.
No, because bananas, they have you have to peel them off, and sometimes it's hard to do it.
And a peach, you could just bite right into it.
No, yeah, they say exactly.
Okay, question number 2, soccer or football?
You know what? I'm really surprised, Rui. You always go into football and soccer, and I thought that you would today, but you just mentioned something about Portugal's winning something, and that's it. So,
Sporting Lisbon.
Yes, I know, but our viewers answered soccer. That's a shame. That's a shame.
Maybe
Really?
because
Okay.
I'm a sucker. Maybe because I'm just a sucker, you know.
I'm gonna submit. I think there's some confusion there, so we're gonna give a pass on the second one.
Yes.
I believe that Rui was thinking, are you calling the sport that he loves soccer, or are you calling it football? Obviously, it's called football, but in America, we have American football, which is a totally different game. And so I think Rui responded with football, but what he was really saying is he was trying to express his love for soccer.
Exactly.
Proper football. No, not soccer, proper football. Proper
football. Exactly. No,
I should have said
100%.
proper football. Sorry. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And Rui, Eloise and I, we had an exchange this morning because I wasn't even quite clear what we were asking there, but she was very emphatic in her response. So I said, "All right, cool, whatever you want."
Brian, I'm sorry, you lost this one.
Of course I did. No, when it comes to you ladies, I'm always the loser, or maybe I'm the winner. I don't know. Okay, question number 3: dancing or playing music? What did our guests say?
Playing music.
Ooh,
yes.
Okay. All right. Diamond or pearl?
Diamond. But
diamonds they chose.
Any answer is the right answer on that one. That's what we said. Yeah, so
that is correct. And then the final question: Vesuvio or Kilauea?
Vesuvio. Rui was sending me pictures of this vacation in Vesuvio with his family. It was looking so gorgeous. That was awesome.
Incredible. Fantastic. All right. Questions and answers. Do our guests have questions for Rui that he can answer live?
We have a few. From Eric, what's the difference between old and new in Cara units?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. New carats, they were defined in 1907. And the gentleman that triggered that definition was Frederick Kunz, that everybody knows from Kunzite, but back in the 19th century. But it was only established in 1907. Then each country made it legal in different years. I know the Portuguese by heart. It was 1911. I think in the US was 1914, but then each and every country has a different date of the implementation of the so-called metric carat, because it was on the metric system, and the value is 200 milligrams, 0.2 gram. Of course, in the 1960s, the metric system ended, so it makes no sense to call it metric carat anymore, because there is no metric system. And before, every country had a different carat value, and it could vary from almost 192 milligram up to 234 milligrams. So they varied a lot. And in the Book of the Pearl by Frederick Kunz, you can see the values of the old carats in almost all the countries or all jurisdictions that were buying and selling diamonds in the 19th century. In Portugal was 0.20575 gram.
Do you know what triggered, or who was the trigger to make it an established metric?
Yeah, it was the diamond industry.
The diamond industry.
Diamond industry, they were concerned that the consumer confidence in the weights of such valuable assets that are cut diamonds were not protected if you had different carat values, say in New York, in Johannesburg, in Spain, London, Paris, etc. So they had to make it a standard, and it became a standard by the Commission Internationale des Poids et Mesures. This is my best French, and it was in 1907 that organization that defines what is a meter, what is a gram, what are the units of the several metrology things. They defined it in 1907 after many years of discussion.
Thank you. And a question by Kathy. Who owns the Golden Fleece now? I don't know what's the Golden Fleece, if you can.
The Golden Fleece, yeah, it's a religious order that goes back many, many centuries, that the Portuguese king was allowed to wear as a monarch, as a sovereign. For instance, the King of Spain also has the Golden Fleece order. It's a religious order of the Golden Fleece stands for a religious Catholic thing. And so that jewel now belongs to the jewel that it was depicted on during this show is from it will be on display at the future Museu do Tesouro Real, the Royal Treasury Museum in Lisbon. Yeah, that's the one. But you see more, the fleece is like a lamb, and you see like that lamb that is prostrated in there. That fleece, you can see more golden fleeces in many other houses, monarch sovereign houses in Europe, particularly in Spain. The Burgundian aristocratic house was the initiator.
Very nice.
The story of the Golden Fleece itself is very similar to the Arthurian legend of the Holy Grail, in the sense that the Golden Fleece represents a dedication to advancement through education and through noble endeavors. And so I think that's why it became so popular. But to translate it into terms that maybe we understand a little bit better, it's very similar to the Knights of the Round Table seeking the Holy Grail.
And I just remember the Hope Diamond was actually, before it became the Hope Diamond, it was on the French Crown Jewels, the 69 carat triangular shaped cut stone was on a insignia fleece of the French Crown Jewels that then was stolen in the heist of the Garde Meuble and in 1792, and then it was then the story is public. It was recut, and now it's at the Smithsonian, and Eloise, she was lucky enough to handle it and to study it.
And you know about the name of the Golden Fleece in general, it was the fleece, so the skin of the sheep that was used to collect gold in the river. So you were putting all the panning that you had from the river and put it over the fleece, and the fleece would retain the gold and let all the other elements go away. So that's why we call it the Golden Fleece in the first place.
Fantastic, thank you.
Very nice.
Now, easy questions, please. Now you sound like Edward Johnson. Oh, you pick up the very hard ones.
It's our audience. I'm just repeating them. I have one on my own later, if we have time. One by Evan Molidor. What is your favorite fluorescence mineral?
I mean, diamonds. When you study a significant number of diamonds, you can actually witness the variety of fluorescent colors that different diamonds can emit. And Eloise, she's a specialist on the field, so I will try not to develop much this answer, but I would say diamonds in that respect, because the variety is really impressive.
Very good. And we have a comment from an anonymous who said that the metric carat was adopted in 1907 at the 4th General Conference on Weights and Measures.
Okay.
It was defined, not adopted. The adoption was made by governments, and then it had to go into parliament and to be decided. And several countries, jurisdictions have the adoption. It differs in many areas in the world, but the definition is actually, as he says really well, 1907.
Very good. Do you plan to make new online trainings?
I still do. I do a lot, but they are for private groups. Very expensive. I'm kidding. But I do for private groups. Not. I have been doing some conferences and some lectures. The other day I was talking with the Danish Gemological Association. I did the other day also for the Instituto Gemológico Español, for the Spanish. And I sido en español, en mi mejor portuñol. It was in my best Portuguese Spanish accent. And I did another one for Colombia, also in Spanish. And that's it. I keep doing, but not so regularly, because then life had to continue. And so I stopped doing the webinars. But as I said, Edward keeps doing it really brilliantly. And he's so organized. And I really admire his work.
Nice one. One more question. What causes the fluorescence in diamonds?
Eloise, the floor is yours.
That's an entire topic that you can read in Gems and Gemology. You have a really great article by Salima Itin Magania, who did a really good comprehensive study about it. So I will find the link for you and I will put it in the program. But most of the time, like the color of diamonds, it's due to impurities. But for a full comprehensive study, I will send it to you.
Thank you.
And sometimes people ask me, because the majority of diamonds, they can fluoresce blue or bluish in different intensities. Of course, you have many other colors. They ask me, is it good or bad? The markets decide what they like, and it can vary. It varied throughout history. I still remember the so-called blue whites in the very beginning of the South African mining ventures that were really prized. But sometimes I compare the fluorescence of diamond with our blood types, because we can be B minus, A minus, and we are just same when we are in normal light. We have no idea which kind of blood we have in our veins. Of course, my blood is green, but the diamonds, when they are in normal light, they just look as they are with a visible color. They are not excited by any higher energy light source that can trigger that luminescent reaction, and they look alike. But if you use another source of illumination, another excitation source, they can react in different ways. So it's like the blood types, we are all the same, but sometimes in different conditions we can be different. So as they say in Thailand, same but different.
I have one last more question, I promise. What made you go into the study of jewelry objects, like for religious reasons, like all these interesting, if not normal jewelry? I wouldn't call that. This is more like really dedicated jewelry to different religions. What made you go into that?
I even published on that quite extensively. Actually, that's my field of expertise. That's jewels in religious artifacts of mostly Catholic devotion. And it's very simple. I live in Portugal, and remember what I've told about Alan Jobbins. I have everything to do, all the museums. And of course, the church, they still have as liturgical instruments or as museum items, a lot of artifacts that might have gemstones. And eventually, I was studying those gemstones for safekeeping, for conservation reasons, for insurance, for many other things. And also because in our national museums, the majority of jewels that you can find are of a Christian symbolic. So it was a circumstance that it was what there was to study. It's like living in Hawaii, and of course you eat fish because you have fish all over. So it's a circumstance. Or you have a shirt with fish, another circumstance. So it was circumstantial. And we have a lot of temples that still have some artifacts with gems, and they were conservated because the church is very conservative. It's not like a normal jewel changes throughout its life because fashion and other things may make jewelry change, but not the church. It keeps things as they are. So, and the church artifacts, they actually, because they can be dated, sometimes really very accurately as artifacts, they give a lot of clues and a lot of evidence to the history of the utilization of gemstones throughout the ages. And that was my intellectual interest, was actually see how stones were named in documents, how stones were cut, how they were set, and what kind of gemstones were actually set, and in what quantity, statistic, blah, blah, blah. That's what I've done.
Thank you.
Hey, de nada. You're welcome.
All right, Rui, I think we could do another 2 hours with you easily. But this is the end of the show. Of course, we've gone over, but I think every single minute was worth it. As a final goodbye, I'm going to go back to something that you sent me, which just reminds me of Portugal. And Portugal was the country I was in where I probably had one of the best meals of my life. And I also happened to discover a thing there called green wine, Vino Verde.
Vino Verde.
So,
and do you know why is it called Verde? Verde stands for not matured.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it's kind of an immature wine.
That are not still matured. It's a lovely wine. Actually, I have a bottle in my fridge.
Well, this isn't an Alvarinho, which I love, but for the first time on the show, I'm going to have a drink. So, Rui, here's to you.
I have coffee.
Even though it's 8:20 in the morning here.
I have alcohol. I can do the sanitizing.
Oh. Rui, thank you so much for joining us. For all you viewers out there, thank you for tuning in again. Check out Blue Cap Productions' YouTube channel. Tomorrow, we're going to be releasing our interview with Edward Bohm. That was episode 45. Originally aired on April 28th, and that was an incredible show. Edward's such a great guy and showed us some incredible things. And
Mr.
don't forget, pardon me?
He's Mr. Spinell. He loves Spinells. Yeah. No.
Yeah. And he's a terrific guy. And for those of you who want to tune back in next week, you definitely want to do it. We are going to have Dr. Robert Hazen on our show. Bob is an incredible scientist. Guaranteed he's going to blow your mind. It's going to be a great episode. We're looking forward to it. Rui, here's to you again. Thank you for coming on the show. For all you viewers, aloha. Take care. Cheers.
Thank you very much for your kind invitation. Bye-bye.